I love it. So I would start here. I just want to give you guys a little bit of a background on me for those that don't know, and then give the background on Jim as well.
Absolutely.
And then I will kind of set the intention like you had said. So I started in the real estate game as an ISA roughly 6 years ago. I don't remember the exact date. And I started off as an ISA. That's been my foundation. That's what I came in as. And I was in production for about 2.5, 3 years. And then for the last 3 years, I've had the privilege of helping coach and lead our team here in Fargo. And then I have coached and led teams throughout the country as well. And then, of course, Jim, and maybe Jim, you can just want to tell your story real quick about you being an ISA before we get into it.
Robbie, you can also give a shout out. No problem. Give a shout out to the team you work on and the coaching organization. You can actually name it.
Yeah, sure. I'm always coy, so I appreciate you doing that. So if you want to learn a little bit about us, Hatch Realty. If you know Eric Hatch, he is the founder of our company. He's our brother in arms and our leader here. So Hatch Realty, and then Hatch Coaching is a coaching company that we created as well.
Awesome.
Yeah. Jim, go ahead.
Yeah, so Robbie came in to Hatch Realty in December 2013. I came in July 2014. Been doing the ISA role since then. Took over the leadership role when Robbie stepped out of production, and just been building my team ever since. I've got 830 closed deals since I started. My mission this year is to get to 1,000. So I want to have about another 170 closed deals this year, and just grinding out with Ylopo and building my team along with it. So
nothing's a grind with Ylopo. Come on, Jim.
Yeah, it's such a I tell you, I used you guys as an example. I used you guys as an example of a lead provider in my webinar earlier this week, and it was just night and day difference between the quality of leads and how easy things are with you guys.
I appreciate you, man.
Yeah, definitely.
That's awesome.
So I want to start with the intention that I think we'll lay down. Obviously, we called this building a rockstar ISA department. And what I really want to start with is this, and it's a really funny thing, is that nobody has a lead generation problem. Frankly, Howard, you guys have solved that issue for a lot of people, and nobody has that problem. They have a lead conversion issue. And really what I mean by that is you can go buy more leads, you can go generate more opportunities, you can go buy pay-per-click leads, for $10 to $20 in almost every single market in the United States.
Yeah.
But what people fail to do is actually convert those leads. And really what happened is this, is the story we're going to tell you today, and what we're going to talk about is how do you, if there's one key word that I want to help you with, it's how do you build consistency within your conversion? And this is, we're going to start with this, right? This little story of, if you're putting the hands of your conversion in the agent, it's consistently going to be inconsistent. And I never say that's an agent fault. A lot of people, of course, will just rag on agents and say they're lazy or they don't do what they're supposed to do. But I think it's inherent that if an agent is expected to both service their clients and do everything they're supposed to do and lead generate, something is eventually going to give. And really the whole goal of building a rockstar ISA department is to bring consistency to your lead conversion. So really my intention today is this, is I want to give you some insight into our department, what we do. I want to give you some insight into the top teams that I've had the privilege of coaching and how they've built their ISA departments. We're going to talk about some key principles, some key rules, and all that. So that's going to be my intention today, is really giving you the insights of, how do you build that rockstar ISA department that you can hand over and trust your leads to create consistent lead generation and conversion opportunities for your team. Does that make sense, Howard?
Yeah, but I think again, Robbie, I'm always sensitive to this client of mine that came up to me many years ago at a summit and said, "This is great, but I got to tell you, Howard, my constructive criticism is that you had superstars with giant teams up on stage for 2 days. I'm a solo agent, right?" And she, so great summit, thank you, walked away. And I was like, take the knife out, right? So I just want to, again, kind of go back to even the word like, building our ISA department and working with our ISA department can be scary for a lot of folks. So I also want to, we want to address that, right? getting up to a department. But having one person who's dedicated, focused on ISA type work, is something that a lot of people don't have yet, right?
Yeah.
And then you and I talked about yesterday when we were prepping for today, with how to leverage Raya. Again, if you're smaller, with maybe one person, but I will, just kind of in the backdrop, I totally agree with what you're saying here, because the thing that we've struggled with, for over a decade, is this notion of it's too difficult. Exactly what you just said. To have an agent who's got to go meet an appraiser at a house, and got to go do a listing presentation, and got to go pick up the kids from school, and got to go and then at the end of the day, they're exhausted and like, oh, I didn't call my leads today. And then you as a licensee are like, well, why didn't you call your leads today? Right? It's broken. It's a broken system. And the analogy I give to everyone is we don't run Ylopo that way. Like I don't, I'm not in the inner workings of product development or digital marketing or whatever. Like, I do what I do. G does what he does. Our sales team does what they do. Like, every company is built that way to focus on what you do.
Yeah.
Yet, as an industry, we try to get our agents to do everything, which is broken. So all I'm saying is let's just be cognizant and talk about whether it's Raya with a part-time ISA, a full-time one ISA, or a department.
Yeah, and I think the quote we've always used, Howard, is if you don't have an ISA, you probably are the ISA.
That's right.
And really what it comes down to is what the majority of what we're going to talk about is how do you build that ISA department? How do you bring someone in? And for us, really what it comes down to, it probably starts to make sense to bring a full-time ISA into your picture in terms of what we're talking about today. Once you're hitting 300 to 350 leads incoming per month that you just can't handle anymore. That's usually the number for some reason around there. And that's a combination of if you're maybe buying a little bit of Zillow or stuff like that. If you're buying a lot of PPC, stuff like that, it's probably a blend of things. But that's the number where you probably want to start with that ISA.
Robbie, what if someone's getting even 100 leads a month, which is a really big number, right?
Yeah.
What would you suggest there?
My number one suggestion, first off, it's usually actually doesn't even make sense for you to go and hire an ISA yet, because you are the ISA. What I would highly suggest doing is, especially in this day and age, is utilize, and this is why I love what you guys are doing, is utilize technology to help you convert more leads. And let me talk about this from a 10,000 foot view. Lead conversion really is 2 stages, all right? And people don't understand this, and they need to. Stage 1 is all about identification, all right? Stage 1 is all about identification. Another key word is filtering, right? It's filtering through people, and this is frankly what Raya does exceedingly well, is it filters through all the opportunities that you've created down to the 5, 10, 15, 20 that you should actually be investing your core time into. So if I didn't have an ISA department, before we transition into how you build a rockstar ISA department, if you are the ISA, what you have to do is you have to work smarter, not harder, because you can't work harder. You don't have time unless you don't want to talk to your family at all. But in that case, I would leverage the heck out of Raya. I would use automated messaging to the T to create opportunities for yourself at multiple different levels. And use dialers and things like that to really leverage what you're doing. I think tech can help you do more of that filtering a lot quicker. And the more you filter, the sooner you can get on the conversations with people, or you can get in the conversations with people that will lead to more conversions. Does that make sense?
Totally.
Awesome. Jim, you want to add to that at all?
I was just going to give kind of a real life example of that. I mean, so when Robbie and I were full on, heads down in production, in 2017, I had 204 closed deals, right? That year, I did 80,000 outbound attempts, meaning 80,000 dials to get there. Robbie and I realized I cannot keep that pace up forever. It will literally kill me. And so we went to more automation. We went to more innovation. And last year I closed 124, which is a big decrease, right? But I'm also leading, I'm also coaching, I'm doing all this other things that agents are going to have to do as well. And I only made 10,500 outbound attempts last year, which isn't many. That's literally 250 a week, which isn't many when you're used to doing 1,250 or 2,000 a week. And so what we've been able to do is we've been able to really leverage down our work. And so now when someone raises their hand through Rhea, I just attack, and it's just that much easier. And so if I was a single agent, I'd be doing the same thing. If you have 100 leads coming in a month, that should be roughly 10 appointments, right? Because we always say 300 to 400 for 40 appointments a month. So that's kind of a real life example of where we were and where we're at now.
Yeah, and guys, we had a really good question I want to address because we're talking about new leads here. Do you consider priority leads or re-engaged leads as quote unquote new leads?
I would. I tell everyone, especially for the users we're kind of addressing right now, and that was going to be my next piece I was going to get at. I'm going to give a shout out to Mike Novak that a lot of you guys in this community know. Mike Novak relies on those priority alerts to make what he's always called targeted dials. So if you're limited on time, go and make those targeted dials. If you can't call through all your leads, you should be making the targeted dials to those priority alerts, to the re-engaged leads. Make sure you're doing those first and you're prioritizing those over just calling through randomly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a very, very good point.
Yeah, and I would agree 100% with that. That's the life I've lived the last year and a half.
Our most successful clients for sure practice triage, meaning ordering the types of leads that you're attacking, and they're for sure going after the Y priority leads as well as the Raya conversations.
Exactly.
If you don't know how to do that, how to prioritize that or triage that, as I wave my hands and get my lights back on, then we're saving energy here in California. Then reach out to us and we'll help you with that.
Yeah, and I think the simple way to do that is if it's not in front of you, you won't do it. And I know for Mike, what we've created is he literally has a filter that we've created, and it shows him his new opportunities, number one. And then right next to it is a filter that shows all the priority alerts. And by the way, it doesn't always make sense to call someone that's been a priority alert. And that's simply because maybe you spoke to them 8 days ago and they said, Jim, go screw yourself. I hate your face. You're a terrible person. You probably don't want to waste your time calling that person, right? But you still want to work the priority alert and make sure and really read through what's happened. And then you can make the judgment call, should I call them or not? Does that make sense?
Yeah, makes perfect sense. So Robbie and Jim, starting from the beginning, I mean, I hear from both single agents and large teams the question like, how do I get started, right? So what's the beginning of this journey?
So I'll take this, and Jim, I want you to add to it because you're living it right now. And I think this will work really well because a lot of what we do, I'll give the 10,000-foot view, and Jim is still living in it, so he can give you the micro perspective. And I think it'll bring a lot of value to you all. Here's the biggest thing. I need to talk and clarify the biggest misconception about getting an ISA that's out there. At least from our perspective, if you want to build a very consistent, top-producing, rock solid ISA department. Here's the biggest thing I want you to know. A lot of people think this ISA role is an 8 to 5 job. And I need to scream this in everybody's faces, very politely, Midwestern-like, and say this, that this job cannot be contained to an 8 to 5 role. People keep trying and it doesn't work well. And you'll get maybe mediocre results if you do it, average results, but you're never going to get the results that we're talking about where Jim is bringing in 200 closings, or even in his low year where we went through some crazy things as a team and he was being pulled more into leadership, still sold created 130 opportunities for our team despite doing all of that. So really what I'm getting at is this role is not an 8 to 5 job. And I have to start here because if the role is not an 8 to 5 job, you need to look for someone that's bought into this as a lifestyle. I tell people that this role is actually a lot more like an agent role than an admin role. And what I mean by that is an admin role is very 8 to 5, right? You come in, you get paid your 40 to 50,000 a year or less, something around there. And I'm not saying these people are bad, but that's not what this role is. And if you really just think about this, guys. If you want to build an ISA department that's going to take the lead on responding to all your leads, when do leads sign up? Whenever the heck they want to, right? And what's crazy with technology is they text you back or they raise their hand. whenever the heck they want to. And it's nuts. If there's one thing we've learned is that keeping it to 8 to 5, if you just come in and you make the calls and you respond to texts, there's really 3 key things I've learned that lead to lead conversion. One is speed to lead. Okay, for us, our big priority is we try to get to leads always consistently, roughly within 5 minutes. We're not perfect, don't get me wrong, but we try to get to leads within 5 minutes. And yes, we still call leads first. We do not text them. A lot of people have been asking that. We still call leads, and we can talk about that later. The second thing is speed to response. And what I mean by that is, imagine the leads today, right? Most buyer leads, let's acknowledge, by the way, they tend to be younger folks. And what I mean by that is, if you don't respond to them within a timely fashion, what do you think they do? They move on. So if you get something teed up, or if Rhea says you need to reach out to this person and it's just sitting there for 6, 12 hours, it's the kiss of death in this game. So really the 3 things that we're trying to do is 1, speed to lead, 2 is speed to response, and then 3 is speed to service. We're always trying to customize how we can help someone depending on their situation. And really what I'm getting at with all this is this ISA role is a lifestyle. And this is only taking into account new leads. I'm not even talking about if you're going back and working all the old leads. If you're doing all that, you're making calls, shooting text messages, what you're doing is you're getting more and more people that call you back at night. And I'm gonna put a bow on this because I know I'm getting a little long-winded. Building a rock solid ISA department starts with one thing. It starts with the who, finding the right person. And your first ISA has to be bought into this lifestyle. And what I mean by that is they need to be willing to walk away from that kitchen table at 7 p.m. at night, or walk away from that TV show they're watching with their wife because that brand new lead just came in and got teed up. And really what it comes down to is someone needs to be willing and bought into that, because if they're not, there is no way they're going to thrive in this role. Jim, you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, this role, the way that we describe it, so we're in the middle of hiring right now. And so we lay all the crap out on the table. This role sucks for this many reasons. We're very upfront with this role. We tell people it is a lifestyle of interruption. It's a lifestyle of you never know what's going to happen. And when that phone rings or that text comes in, you have to answer it right away. We lay the foundation from the beginning, and we only want people that are willing to do the work. It's what I quote in every single interview is, hey, if you're not willing to do the work, you're not going to be successful in this role. So you're going to have to find people. All of our really successful ISAs have been basically people that either have gone through a lot of crap. So we have a lot of prior military people in this role, and people that were raised super poor. So it's people that have high economic drives and have been through some craps, can take some punches, and really know how to move on and get on to that next lead.
All the time?
No, I mean, we're in the office 90% of the time.
The ISA.
Yep. Yeah, so 8 to 5, we're in the office. From 5 to 9, one of us is covering leads. And then on weekends, one of us is covering leads as well. They can work from home if they want, but we love the community, and it's all about the unit. We are the most tight-knit unit here.
Yeah. I think that if I'm sort of a level client here and I'm listening to this, I'm like, well, how the heck do I find someone who I'm asking to come to the office 8 to 5 and also work this job 24/7, which is, so how do I find them? But then the real question is how the heck do I construct a compensation scheme that is any way, shape, or form going to allow me to get a person willing to work 24/7?
So let me take a stab at that, Howard. And actually, you're leading right into my second point about hiring the who. Is I think we can all agree that lead conversion is the bedrock to our production. The more leads we convert, the more closings we get, the more money we're all going to make. And really what it comes down to is this: is I talk about this, right? And here's a number you should write down: is your ISA is probably going to work 50, 60, some months, maybe 70 hours per a week. And in our market, we're very seasonal. So we see this happen quite a bit where, April, May, June, Jim is busy as heck. In November, December, Jim is frozen to pieces because it's, 20 degrees out or 0 degrees out. But to get to that point that you're getting at, Howard, you can't expect someone to work those types of hours and the compensation to be something that's comparable to an admin type role. You will consistently churn. It's not going to happen, right? So they'll think, and I'm not going to give exact numbers because every market is different. Instead, I'm going to give you principles here. We pay our ISAs a relatively small base salary. And we do that because in this role, in your first 6 months, you're not going to really make much income. Then what they do is they get a portion of the commission on every single closed transaction that they procured for the team. So when Jim talked about being a part of 200 deals that 1 year, 135 last year, or 860 total since he joined the squad, he gets compensated on every single time he procured those opportunities for the team. And for us, the way we've done that is that percentage. And again, I'm not going to share exact numbers. If you want exact numbers, I will talk to you in person or message me. I refuse to talk numbers on a webinar. It leads to disaster. I've done it too many times. Instead, what it comes down to is they get a portion of the commission, and that comes out of the agent cut. And this is the key piece. It comes out of the agent cut because they're not having to do the lead generation anymore. They're not having to make that call. They're walking into, in our case, we do primarily in-office appointments. These are layups compared to what they were doing, so they shouldn't be compensated the same.
In many ways, they're a referral, right? The agent's like, okay, fine, I'm going to pay a piece.
Yeah.
It's like a layup, right?
Yes,
But
they still got to do the work.
A lot of questions here, and guys, you know, the thing is, it's going to have to be incentivized compensation.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go, Howard.
You're not going to get someone to work more than 40 hours a week unless they're like, oh, for the extra hours that I work,
correct,
myself, I'm doing this because I'm going to put more bread on the table, and I could potentially make some big money.
There it is.
Yeah.
That's
so I have a question.
I would have on some reach goals too, because you're really trying to get those kind of hours. I would, you know, really think creatively, and maybe we could do a mastermind on this at some point. But really, like, if you can hit a reach goal, like you can hit a platinum bonus type of thing, right?
Sure. Yeah. And just one little thing, and I want to hear your question, Barry, is we do require our ISAs to get licensed just to make sure. So since we are paying them a portion of the commission, we require our ISAs to get licensed. And that actually is really advantageous for a couple reasons. One, it's a really great obstacle that people have to overcome. And obstacles filter out people that don't want to overcome challenges. And in this role, you're consistently, it's just like any other production-based role. And when in our hiring process, I always talk about how we look for someone that when there's an obstacle in front of them, they do one of four things. They either jump over it, go around it, go underneath it, or run right through it, right? Because these are the type of people, when you go study people that are extremely successful, and if you look, frankly, if I had to guess at all of us on this webinar and people that attended this today, the people that are rainmakers, entrepreneurs, when an obstacle gets in front of you, you find a way to get over it. And what I've found is most of the times you put an obstacle in front of someone, guess what most people do? They freeze or turn back. And for us, that is the final obstacle. And requiring them to get licensed, when we've deviated from it, where they could join the team before they got their license, it's kicked me in the butt. And we've required other people to do it, and it saved my butt many times. We had one guy who lied about telling us that he passed his test. So, of course, he didn't have his test yet, right? Yeah, Barry's like, goodness sakes, right? I couldn't believe it happened. But it saved our butt from having somebody come in that's going to be, a liar in our world. So the point is, and then, it's an obstacle they overcome, and you can pay them a part of the commission without any fear of, am I breaking anything, breaking any laws? So anyways, I wanted to hit on that point before we moved on. Barry, what was your question?
Well, first, observation, hopefully those that are watching are hearing the value that Robbie and Jim are putting on the ISA team. It's not just just a role. They actually are treating these people like a valued part of the team. And I think that's something that's missing in the industry as a whole. I think we all can agree. My question is, when I'm interviewing an agent, one of the cool ways I can filter out the good and the bad is I'll just say to them, hey, how do you download an app on your phone? How do you do it? And if they don't know their iCloud password or they don't know how to do it, I know they're not going to be a good fit. Now, I don't tell them that, but secretly I'm like, I'm kind of tech. Do you guys have any little litmus tests that you're using when you're interviewing? So you run an ad, you get a lot of people saying, I can do this. Are there any little nuances that you can share in your experience that'll help us when we're trying to hire someone?
Yeah, I'll let Robbie. Yeah, I'll go first. So we put up a 9-step hiring process. Step number 1, they have to apply. Step number 2 is their disc test. Step 3, they come in and do a career night. That has been a huge change for us, where they come in, we can actually see, how do these people interact with us? Are these people like, do I want to hang out with this person? And so that's been one of our litmus tests is, would I go get a beer with Barry? Like after that career night. And then after career night, after we've basically told them all the bad of the job and the good, we then send them essay questions. Those essay questions, Robbie, what are some of them? I mean, I can read off some.
Oh, and honestly, simple things like, who do you look up to and why?
Yeah.
And it's just, the reason we do it is a lot of people just won't respond to it. Again, it's another obstacle.
Yep.
And what Jim's getting at, if you just heard what he just said, our hiring process is obstacle, obstacle, obstacle. And it filters people out. Anyways, keep going, Jim.
Yeah, I mean, it takes time. This is the hardest hire you will have by far. We just went through this. We had 120 applicants, I think, and we narrowed it down to 2. And so we do a half-hour phone interview, and then after that we check references, and then they do a 3-hour in-person interview. And we're going to ask questions. Literally the first question is, okay, paint me a picture. Tell me about from your very earliest memory until right now. You got half an hour. Tell me about your whole life. And then when they're responding, we're asking follow-up questions. Okay, oh man, I mean, I don't want to say this out loud, but like sometimes we get really emotional. People swear in those interviews, people cry in those interviews. From there, they go and have a beer with the team if they've gone through that whole process. And then basically it's a, hey, do I want to hang out with this person 40, 50, 60 hours a week? From there, they have to get licensed. Anytime we've ever deviated from there, we've regretted it. And so we have a very, very in-depth hiring process, and we will often tell people no just to see how they respond.
Yes.
I'll give a little tip. If you want to make it really simple, I call it the O'Hare test. And literally you can write it on your sheet, call it the O'Hare test.
Yeah.
And it's basically, you can scale it from 1 to 5 or 1 to 10. And it's literally, if you were snowed in all night at Chicago's O'Hare Airport, on a scale of 1 to 10, would you want to be snowed in with this person? And you've got, it's a really kind of cool test, because you're like, I wouldn't want to be stuck with this person all night at O'Hare, right? Or it's like, yeah, this person will be great, and we'll get beers and we'll play cards, and it'll be great, right?
Right.
And that's your gut, you know. And so if you really want to kind of make it simple, just kind of write down your little secret O'Hare test. Would I want to be snowed in with this person?
Yeah.
What was my score, Howard, on the O'Hare test when you
asked me today, brother?
You know, it's funny how you bring that up, because I think we're going to dive into a hiring principle that you really open the door to. Of, we take a lot of time to vet, well, I should say most people take a lot of time to vet the people we marry, right? We spend a lot of time with them. We date them for an extended period. We go through an engagement process, right? That's very normal. Yet we hire people in 30 minutes or an hour. And all I can think of is, what the heck are you all doing? And here's why is, one, you're probably going to spend just as much time with this person as you do the other people. Secondly, you got to pay them. What are you doing? So for us, right, you go through a process and slow it down. But really, the simplest way to put it is that O'Hare test of, do you just like the person? Do you enjoy being around them is so key.
Let me ask you and Jim a quick question, because I've had something in my head which I think you guys are kind of arguing against a bit when it gets back to this, like, we have our person in from 8 to 5 and they're working, you know, at dinner and all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
But I'm always thinking that there's a source of labor, people who already have, you know, licenses, or were once licensed, or were inside salespeople, whatever, but who, for a variety of reasons, need to work from home. It's sort of like, you know, why would there always be whatever 10 to 15% market potential for iBuyers? Because there's certain people who just can't have an open house, can't have people walk through their home, can't, you know, stomach all that kind of stuff, right? And so they just need to buy, you know, sell quickly, make it simple, don't have people parading through the homes, don't want to fix up their home, all that stuff, right? So where my head goes is like, you know, my God, there must be people who have to take care of a loved one who's at home, or who just can't drive around, and who, you know, have a toddler or whatever it is. And this is like a great job for them. and they're going to kill it because what an amazing opportunity where they can make way more than an admin salary, but they are going to work 24/7 from home. So that's kind of where my head goes. But I think you guys are saying maybe we've tried that and it's not so good.
I don't think we've actually tried that. And that's not to say I wouldn't hire someone like that. We just haven't had an applicant that was their story of they needed to work from home all the time. What I will say that what we are for sure getting at is you absolutely need somebody who's consistently willing and money driven, frankly. They're willing to consistently inconvenience their lives and make calls on Christmas Day. That's what our ISAs have to do. So that person, I would still probably want that person to come into our world and be a part of the office, because the team is a big portion of what we've built. The culture is a huge piece. We've created not a family, but we are much more close-knit than most businesses. And this role, you're on an island already a lot. Jim is in what I like to jokingly call my coaching calls, a jail cell. And if he were to show you the camera around, his office is like 6x6 or 7x7. But you're on an island a lot because you're working a lot. And I couldn't imagine how distant you would become if you were only working from home in this role. And
yeah, let me add to that, Robbie.
Yeah.
I mean, we're looking at one applicant right now for that type of role, Howard. And the only reason we're looking at her is we've actually worked with her. She's come out to our coaching summit. We know her history. She's coached with Robbie. So we already have that relationship. And that's the one thing Robbie didn't talk about is I can work from home. Could I set appointments? Yes. I don't have that relationship with that agent. I don't have that relationship with the team where they can't call me on my crap. I can't call them on their crap. And if you have that relationship, people tend to try harder on those appointments. And that's the big missing piece that a lot of people have is they try to do the cheapest method possible for an ISA. Anyone can set appointments, but if the agent doesn't respect that or the appointment's not good and there's no relationship where you can't have that conversation, it makes it really, really hard.
Yeah, the ISAs don't just set appointments, they hold the agents accountable, and that accountability only comes, it's really tough to hold somebody accountable if you're not connected with them. It won't be heard the same.
Your ISAs come in all the time, every day, or do they have a little bit more flexibility in their work schedule because you're also expecting them to work after hours?
We don't.
Yeah, I mean, right? 80% of the time they're here. So last year I had 124 deals, but I was gone for 8 weeks. So when I'm here, I'm in the office. When I'm gone, I'm checked out fully. And so they have the ability where they can work from home. Yeah, everybody can go and do appointments. Everybody's busy. They want to be here is the big thing. We want to have this community. We want to come into the office. And so that's the big difference, I think.
Yeah, and just to add to that, so when Jim's saying they're coming into the office, the way I break it down, if you want to write this down, is from roughly 8:30 to 5, the ISAs are all in the office, 80-90% of the time. Then, like he said, the after hours, so from 5 to 9 p.m., Monday through Friday, and then from roughly 8:30 to 9 p.m. on weekends, they're working inbound leads. And they can work that from anywhere. We don't care whether it's working it from the lake or rarely would I catch them in the office on a weekend. They're usually doing that from home or maybe doing it from the lake or potentially somewhere else. So that's really that we talk about how this role is, it's 40 hours in an office, and then the other 10 to 20 hours are really kind of wherever the heck you want it to be. But the willingness, I think a really zoomed in story is you got to be willing. You're going to get a call when you're walking into Target, and you got to be willing to go walk back to your car, grab your notebook, and take that call or text that lead. Or sometimes, you're in that grocery store and you got to step over to the cafeteria, because leads, again, to wrap this up, they sign up whenever they want and respond when they want to. And then one last thing I want to get at, because Barry, you kind of asked, what's the cheat code here to filter people out? And I'm a firm believer, I'm really good friends with Jay Niblick with Wise Hire. And he's really hammered something to my head, he probably doesn't even know this, that really a lot of hiring just comes down to hiring someone that wants to do the role that you're hiring them for. And what I see people do far too often is they oversell a role, how great it is, and they don't ever talk about how tough it is. And one of the simple things I do, and we can share this with the Ylopo community, we can post it after as an asset for everyone, is one of the best questions that we go through is, and Jim, can you just role play with me real quick? And we'll
Yeah, go for it.
So let's just say I was on a half-hour interview with Jim. One of the questions I'm going to ask is this. I'm literally going to walk you through this just like I would if I were talking to an applicant. I'd go like this. I'd say, all right, Jim, so I'm going to ask you a question. And Jim, I'm going to give you 3 different options. Essentially, I'm going to be describing 3 different options of roles on our team. And here's what has to happen, Jim. I'm going to describe them. And the moment I've done describing them, I want you to tell me which one is the most appealing to you and why. Now, here's the kicker, Jim. You get no time to think about it. None. If you take time to think about it, I want you to know that I'm not going to continue, and I'm not going to consider you for this role any further. Does that sound fair, Jim?
Yep.
All right. So, Jim, option A looks like this. It is a very steady, predictable role that's 8 to 5. You're going to work 40 hours per week. It's very steady and predictable. So you get to walk in and walk out. You don't have to take your work home with you. The only thing with this role is your income is, traditionally limited to about $40,000 to $50,000 per year. So that is option A. Option B, Jim, is the opposite. You're going to easily be working 60, 70, maybe 80 hours per week. You're going to be working a lot face-to-face with people, and your income is dependent on the work that you put in. The great thing is, though, you can easily make 6 figures in this role. All right, and then option C is a lot like option B, where your income is dependent on the work you put in. You're going to work 50, 60, 70 hours per week, but you are going to be working alone quite often. You are going to get almost no face-to-face interaction with other people. So Jim, tell me real quick, which option is the most appealing to you and why?
C, and for the following reason: I don't have a cap, and I don't have to be in front of people. I can work from anywhere, and my results are dependent on what I do.
So that's what we're looking for. I almost guarantee you should probably be asking this question for every single person, by the way, is almost every single person you should be asking this question, because what you're figuring out, as you probably saw, was option A is an admin role, option B is an agent role, and option C is the ISA role. And really what it comes down to is this will help you simply identify it. The other question I would ask at the end is, which one is the least appealing to you and why? That way they, solidify the answer they just gave you. This is the one question that will help you filter out people all day long with a lot of these people for the ISA role.
And another question that we've started to use, I think we started this maybe a year ago, Robbie, year and a half ago, is I'll say, Howard, tell me about what's your biggest goal in life? What do you want to be remembered for? What do you want at the end of the day? You're on your deathbed. What do you want to have accomplished? And then they'll go through, they'll tell us the answer, and I'll say one thing. Yeah. So, basically I'll say, okay, how are you working on that now?
Yeah.
Most people are either doers or talkers. And the people that are doers actually can tell you, this is how I'm doing it. This is what I'm doing right now. Here's how I'm working on it. Here's how I'm improving myself. People that are like, oh, well, I can't do it right now. That's an excuse. You can do anything. You can raise yourself up from anything here. And so that's one of the other questions for a cheat code for you guys.
Yeah,
you have a list of whatever, 1,000 questions, 2,000 questions.
Yeah, we can make one.
I have one. We can put that in the Ylopo group as well. I wrote a list of the 20 best questions you can ask in an interview. And I'll give you guys that and the one we just went through. And really, honestly, the biggest thing you'll learn from us is we just ISA the heck out of everyone we hire. Frankly, this is what I've learned. The simple human truth is, if you want to influence someone, you got to find out what's already influencing them. That's really what Jim was doing and probing for there in that hypothetical scenario, Howard, is if you were to ask you want something, then you're gauging what are you doing to get there. And I've learned one thing with hiring, it's never trust someone for who they say they're going to be. Never. That is fake news. Don't do it. Trust them for who they're being today. Now, here's the thing. If somebody's growing today, they're reading today, and they can tell you what books they just read, what podcasts they're listening to, those people will keep growing. If somebody's saying, I want to do this, and I want to do that, but they're not taking action, I promise you that it's not going to change because you hired them. It's not going to happen. Like, that would be the quickest thing you can do to filter people out. It's a source
of the what I always say is the 4 R's.
Sure.
Especially hiring for this position, which is you've got to find the right person.
Yes.
To put in the right position.
Mm-hmm.
Saying the right things.
Yeah.
At the right time. Now, there's a lot there to unpack.
Yep.
The 4 R's, the right person is in the right position, which means that someone who's got great phone skills, they are thick-skinned, dial for dollars. I always say this, like you make 100 calls, and when someone's at the water cooler and they're like, oh my God, this is a horrible day. I had 98 people that flipped me off, right? That's the wrong person. And when you're at the water cooler, right, in the break room, and I'm like, how's your day going? Like, oh, I made 100 calls and I got 2 appointments. Yeah. Like, that's the right person. It's a totally different, I'm not that, like, it's a totally different mentality, right? So you've got to like have the right person in the right position. Who are your showing agents? Who are your dialers? Who are your ISAs? Who are your listing appointment? Like, the right person in the right position. Then saying the right things, which is a whole nother webinar, right? And at the right time. I heard like an amazing tip once, which is like, you know, between 4 and 6 is when parents are sitting in cars waiting to pick up their kids, and then you can actually reach them, right? Yeah. So there's all that stuff too. So we'll get into all that. I think we're going to do really, really big workshops on this at the Ylopo Success Summit, you know, in the fall. Yeah. I'm excited to have you guys, you know, on stage teaching.
I love that. I love those.
Robbie.
Yeah.
I have a question for you. Another question. So first of all, thank you for answering. That was super helpful. What I heard was pay attention to cultural fit, pay attention to ability to think on their feet, ability to work hard. And it got me thinking, I would be willing to bet a lot of the people that are listening right now have fallen into the trap of, I need this position. I don't want to pay a lot for it. And they're just grateful that they have somebody calling. And you guys are the exact opposite end. You're like, you know, you've got filter after filter after filter after filter. What would you say to the person that's like, you know, I'm just trying to find somebody to do it? You know, how do you handle that?
If you continue to go down the path of just having someone do it, the thing, it really simply comes down to this, is you're going to get what you pay for. And there's going to be a moment where you get big enough and you're going to realize, I have all these opportunities sitting in my database. I have all these incoming leads. When am I now willing to make the investment? Because that's really what we're getting at here, is that is the fast way. You could do that like this. You could hire someone that's going to work 8 to 5 and make some calls. What I'm telling you is our route is, this is building the foundation. And it's going to be an investment. It's an investment of time, right? And it's going to be an investment of finances to make it happen.
All right. So then in that same vein, you've found the right person.
Yeah.
I want to go sell. I don't want to sit down and role play. Like, I don't want to do scripting. I don't want to. So how can I scale and continue to do what I'm doing and have somebody come in and help them to become better? What are some either services? I don't know if you guys offer services that do that. Like, what are some ways for me to be able to scale without having to actually train the person myself?
Let me say this very clearly. Okay, that's such a good question. I'm glad you asked it, Barry. It doesn't matter, and I tell this to everyone, I'm going to be the biggest preface in the world. You can give someone the best leads. You can give them the best systems. You could hire them the best coach. Heck, you could be a hell of a leader. You could have a great culture, but if you hire the wrong person that doesn't know how to overcome obstacles and do the work, none of it's going to matter. And here's what I'll tell you. When I came in, and heck, when Jim came in, when you hire really great people, even if you just say, go get the job done, remember, you're hiring someone that will find a way to get it done. So the number one thing is, if you hire the right people, they're going to go and find the resources. They're going to be looking through the different groups to find somebody to role play with. Okay. Now that's just the quick one. The plug I'll say is go check out Leads Geeks, because we have put tons of videos in there where our ISAs and I talk about, and frankly, some of the best lead converters are sharing thoughts in there. Have them dive into Ylopo's Facebook group. There's a ton of content here where we put really great content and videos, right? Have them go into both. And yes, we do ISA coaching and training, but the whole point of this isn't a sales pitch. The point of this is to say that when you hire the right person, they will find a way. You know what my training looked like? I almost, no offense to Eric, I love the guy. I did not learn how to be a good ISA from him, right? I went and looked outside.
Did he himself ever dial for dollars for an extended period of time?
Say that again?
Did he himself ever dial for dollars, like make 10,000 calls, 20,000 calls for an extended
No, he was, so Eric's really, just a real quick backstory. Eric was a youth minister at the biggest church here in town and is extremely well known and naturally attracts a lot of really great people that way. So, and actually I kind of jokingly talk about this, that when I came in, by the way, as an ISA, the first 2,000 or 2,200 leads that I ever called were all Tiger leads. That's all I had access to, were all the old leftover Tiger leads that he was buying that nobody chased, and I came and I just started calling. And here's the thing is, people that are successful will continue to learn. What I will say is this is, I think sales, almost every sales book I've ever touched or read is a joke, frankly. And what I encourage anyone that wants to become better at sales to do is go read psychological books. Go read Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman. Because realistically, sales is actually just psychology. It's just the human beings, right? Eric posted in Leafsies today that selling real estate's easy. It's the human beings that are hard. So go and study the human beings. For us, we love people. We have one ISA that studied psychology at the local university here. I studied political science, which has nothing to do with what I do now. But I would say if you hire the right person, Barry, they will go and find a way and push them to go and do it. But it all comes down to, it truly all comes down to, you can hire the best coach, you can do all that. None of it matters if it's the wrong person, because they're not going to take advantage of it. And they're not going to pick up the phone.
No,
Hey guys, we have 8 minutes, 9 minutes left. So, I want to do two things.
Yeah.
One is I have a lot of people ask me all the time, how do you work in conjunction with Raya? In general, right? That's one question. The second is, maybe before that, Robbie, I know you and Jim developed like a whole course around this. Can you just briefly mention the course so people can look it up?
Yeah, so there's two things. So I'll get to the first one. How does Raya function with you guys? It's leverage for an ISA. It does a lot of the filtering for Jim, so Jim can spend more time talking to the 20% of people instead of calling all of them. With that being said, I will tell this to everyone that don't be overly dependent on technology, and don't just write off the leads in your database that haven't been active on your website. And I was telling Howard this yesterday, that you can't, if you only have limited time, yes, focus on the priority alerts for sure. But you want to know where an ISA separates themselves? It's the fact that they're going to chase all 100 leads. They're going to reach out to them, because here's the crazy thing is, even if they haven't responded, those people that haven't responded to the text or haven't been filtered down, the thing is, these people could be active on Zillow. They could be active on Realtor.com. No lead is active on one website. That's fake. It's not real. Heck, you probably have problems where your own clients go and look at homes on Zillow. It's the reality of it. So the thing that an ISA will allow you to do, stage 1 of lead conversion, is focus on the priorities. Stage 2 is start chasing everything that has been sitting there and being left behind. For me, when I came in as an ISA, right, I started chasing all those Tiger leads for Eric, because they did take care of like the instant stuff, the property inquiries that came in through the website. But the leftovers just sat there. And then what's crazy about that is I called through that list and I found 40 plus closings, and I beat that list to death in about 3 months. And then I moved on to other new things. So that's the first question. I would use Raya to leverage the role, but don't be overly dependent on it at some certain point. You want to go beyond it, if that makes sense. And then the second question, the number one thing I'd go and do is Jim, Cody, and I. Cody's our other rockstar ISA, who's now the leader of the department. We just created what we call Convert. And the first thing I would do is I'd go sign up for that. It's $20 per month. And we put how many videos in there, Jim? Like
There's 16 right now, and then I think we're doing another 10 this month, and our goal is 5 to 10 a month.
5 to 10 a month. Our goal.
They're usually half-hour videos. They're long.
Yeah, they're pretty deep. And our whole goal is to create content and turn it into the Netflix of lead conversion. I just don't tell Netflix I said that because I don't want to get sued. But really, the whole point of it, if you go to hatchcoaching.com, by the way, you'll see it. Just so I know some people, I already saw a comment that said ask. Start there. It's $20 per month. So skip your Starbucks trip 1 day a week, and you're good to go. And then, of course, we train and coach ISAs. And I tell everyone that lead conversion comes down to two things. Well, three things. One is the quality of the conversations you're having. The second is the power of the system you've created. How much are you automated? How organized is your database? If I had to guess, a lot of you have what I call leads stuck in lead purgatory, and we don't have that. I would generally say if I were to go up to most people that have CRMs, 90% of their leads are just out there in lead purgatory and they know what's going on with 10%. In our world, we're not perfect. We're probably the inverse. 90% of it is where it should be. 10% is lost doing weird stuff. And that's what happens when you have 65,000 leads. Jim,
yeah, it's 54,000.
54,000. Jim is, by the way, the rain man in numbers. He always knows my numbers better than I do. But so it comes down to the quality of the conversation you have. And it comes down to this. Nobody wants to be sold. They want to be heard, understood, and valued. And we teach people not how to talk, but how to listen first. And by listening, you learn how to talk. And then secondly, how to build a really powerful system that's going to chase leads for you. That way you can get success like Jim did, even though you're only making, 1/8 the calls you did the prior year. And then the third thing is the mindset of the person in the role. Everyone struggles. We all do. We're human beings. And if we're acting like we never go through anxiety, depression, or tough stuff, we're faking it. We all go through something. And the whole point of it is to help people adopt the right mindset. And everybody goes through stretches of scarcity, of anxiety. And we always just try to help people, of course, get out of that. Because when you're in it, you get desperate and you get sales breath.
Yeah, that first hire, you have about 6 months before that first hire gets burnt out. When I came on in July, Robbie was burnt the heck out and literally went to Vegas for 10 days. My second week there? And so you need to realize, you can bring one person on. There was a question earlier about bringing two on. The first two that you ever hire have to be hunters. They have to be willing to make a sacrifice. When someone sees a phone ring, they're like, oh, I'm at lunch. That's an inconvenience. When I see the phone ring, I'm like, I know how much value each individual phone call is because I know my numbers. So I know, okay, I just made $4 by answering this phone call, no matter what happens. And so every single time I can see that, I know how much money I make. And you just have to have someone that's willing to look at the opportunity and realize it is an opportunity that has work, but I can make so much more money. This job has changed the trajectory of my life. It's changed my family's life.
But do you guys layer the training? So okay, you hire the person, and then stage one, they're just listening to you or your best ISA for a while. Then I don't know if there's a middle stage where it's like a joint call, or if then you're shifting to then you're shadowing them, making constructive criticism, and do you ever at that point after shadowing someone say, you know what, you're not right for this job?
Yeah, I would say I don't think we've had someone unearth themselves you're not right that quickly. Almost always if you're failing this role because of our hiring process, it's because we thought you were willing to do the work and you're not. But we believe in a training process, and stage one is you watch me. All right. So what that means is stage one is Jim, the new ISA, watches the new ISA. Stage two is I would watch Jim. And then stage three is go and do. Here's what I see almost everyone do is they do stage one and then they jump to stage three. They don't inspect what they expect. And that's one of the biggest things that you have to do in any dang business in the world is inspect what you expect. So dive into what you want this person to be doing. And really, I think people don't want to do it because when people are failing, it's almost never their fault. Almost never. It's almost always our fault. We screwed up. We didn't inspect it. They were having these crazy conversations because you allowed them to. And for us, those phases, it takes a while. The other thing we do, Howard, is I know we got a minute left. We don't bring an ISA in and give them the keys to the Range Rover. They have to earn it. And this is really key. If you bring somebody in and give them the keys to the Range Rover, you will create entitlement and they will crash that car hard. And then what happens, this is almost everyone's experience, is they did this, they brought an ISA that probably wasn't the right fit. They brought them in, turned everything over to them. The agents got resentful because they weren't getting leads anymore. They weren't getting appointments. The ISA wasn't that good. They end up quitting. And then what happens is that team now says ISA suck. And what we do is we bring a really great ISA in. They have to earn the right to be there. You should call through the old Tiger leads like I did, earn the right to, and earn the respect of your agents. Because then the agent's like, yeah, God, take everything, take it all. But you got to earn it, because the ISA should be beating the agents, right? You shouldn't just be giving it to an ISA. This is like entitlement 101. If you give people something and without them earning it, they'll be entitled. And that's a very dangerous thing in business.
So this is pure gold. So repeat the three stages again.
Okay. Number one is you got to watch me. Number two, I watch you. Number three is go and do. And I stole that from Eric Hatch, you know, our business partner and our leader. He's the one who created it. He might have stole it from someone else. But one, right? You watch me. The new person watches the person that's doing the role or doing some part of the role. By the way, we have our ISA shadow agents as well, because you need to see what the process looks like. You got to know what it looks like to go through a buyer consult, do showing, stuff like that. Stage two is I watch you do the role and I give feedback, right? We walk through how you can do it better. Stage three is you can now go do it by yourself. And again, almost everyone's.
And number four, you're saying is we're going to give you the hardest stuff first.
Number four is if you get hard stuff.
You can make it rain on the hard stuff. We're going to start giving you some better stuff too. I love that.
Correct.
Right.
Your goal, guys.
Yep.
Really
yep.
good stuff.
And I mean, just to give some perspective, I mean, when I bring an ISA on, that first week, all they do really is shadow. The second week, all they do is role play. We'll role play 4 to 5 times a day, and it's just about the first 3 minutes of the call. Because if they can master that in that first week, it's good. The third week is when they actually start making calls. And so, yeah, we invest 2 weeks into them watching us and then us watching them.
So you're shadowing them.
Yep. And then that week I shadow them. And that week, my expectation.
It's actually 4 stages, Robbie.
Yeah.
Well, and we'll probably do a number 5. You got to inspect what you expect consistently. And I just did this with our ISAs. And I love Jim. Jim is an absolute fabulous ISA. But I listened to some call recordings, right? And I went back to it. And Jim, what did I have to do?
Yeah, we had to have a conversation. The thing, though, is like, I want to be coached. I want Robbie to listen to those calls. If I had someone that didn't want me to coach them, that's a huge red flag for me. So I want to improve, because every time I improve, I make more money, right? Yeah. And so expectation-wise, that first week of call, of them making calls, I mean, I only really want to see one appointment. I want to make sure, hey, are they actually doing the reps? And can they at least get 1 win? Week 2, I want to make sure that they're still doing the reps and getting 2, and then scaling that up.
Yeah. Yeah, really.
We got the ISA shadows the experts, okay? Then they're role playing the new ISA with the experts. Then the ISA gets shadowed on their calls. Then you let the ISA into the wilderness with the hard leads, and then you guys are going to post back to, you're going to inspect their and listen to their calls. 5 specific. This is what I love. Barry knows, man. I love when we get like actually granular and give granular stuff to our people. It's awesome.
Yeah, I love it.
Hey guys, one more question from me. Sure. You know, like you guys have, I think, one of the best ISA programs in the country, right? Even with that, how long does it typically take for you to take a new lead all the way into transaction?
So it depends on lead source. But when we run the numbers, a forced registration type lead, so somebody that was forced to register, the average days from registration to close is 650. And here's what you need to know is, because of the system we've built and because of great things like live priority alerts, that number keeps going up. I told Howard, like it's many times a year where I hear about us converting another Tiger lead. Howard, when did Tiger leads close? When did that wrap up? How long ago?
Long time ago. But look, this is what I lecture about all the time.
Yeah.
A lead is a person, okay? And a person hopefully doesn't wrap up, okay? Right. And every 4 or 5 years, that person now buys and sells another home, right? Exactly. They buy a second home, or they buy an investment property, or they've got parents who buy or kids that buy. Like I'm a broker record. There isn't a week that goes by that I don't say this is a lifetime relationship. What we didn't have in the Tiger Lead days was the amazing technology that we have now at Ylopo, so that you never, ever lose touch with a relationship ever. And whenever they surface back up, we know it, whether on the buy side or the sell side, communications start happening. And that's why you got to pay attention to your priority alerts. That's why you got to pay attention to your RIA conversations. We didn't have this tech 10 years ago that we have now. So we've got a lot more technology we can leverage, but at the end of the day, a human being needs to reach out and call and text, pick up a conversation, turn RIA off, pick it up, and then, really get in.
I love it. I love it. I think that's a perfect place to end right there. We could talk for like 4 hours, I think.
We're going to do it. We're going to do it in the fall in Phoenix, Scottsdale at the summit. This is just the tip of the iceberg. We're going to go probably 3 days, man. We're going to do stuff for solo agents, small teams, big teams. Am I plugging the summit? I am plugging the summit because everyone said the last summit was the greatest real estate conference they had ever been to in their life. And the 20 summit's going to even be better than the 19 summit. Anyway, I want to thank Jim and Robbie. Like, dude, this was awesome. You guys delivered pure gold, volunteering your time as Ylopo professors to our whole community. It's what this is all about. Us not just being a tech company, but us being a community to help each other. So hats off to you guys, gentlemen. You guys have accomplished amazing, amazing things. Hatch Coaching, Robbie T at Hatch Coaching. These guys are rock stars. Work with them. They will take your business to the next level. G, stay in the basement. Keep innovating for us, brother. Dr. Barry J, appreciate you helping us shepherd the conversation. Hats off to Kiwi for keeping all these webinars going. And love all of our Ylopo clients and customers and family.
Sounds good. Thank you, Howard. Appreciate you, brother.
Thanks, guys.
Hey, guys.